So long to create a live event.
Okay, hello, my name is Tannis, and I will be describing movements in the joint and common areas of the body, as well as the planes and the accesses these movements take place in. So we will be starting with the shoulder joint. And the two motions I will be describing for the shoulder joint are abduction, which is a lateral motion away from the midline, and adduction, which is a lateral movement towards the midline. Both of these take place in the frontal plane and the sagittal axis. The lumbar spine. The lumbar spine is the movement in which I will be describing for the lumbar spine is the lateral flexion. The lateral flexion is a movement of the head and trunk away from the midline. This movement takes place in the frontal plane and the sagittal axis. The shoulder girdle. The two motions I will be describing are protraction and retraction. So protraction is an anterior movement away from the spine, and retraction is a posterior movement towards the spine. Both of these movements take place in the sagittal plane and the frontal axis. The next area of the body is the knee. So we have the two movements, which are flexion, which is a movement of the joint shortening in order for the bones to become closer together, and then an extension, which the joint extends and the bones become farther apart. Both of these take place in the sagittal axis, the sagittal plane, and the frontal axis. And last, the hip. The two motions I will be describing are a medial rotation and a lateral rotation. So medial rotation moves towards the center line, the midline, and a lateral rotation moves away from the midline. And the last thing I need to describe. Oh. Okay, almost a little premature there, jumped the gun. So the plane in which the hip is done is the transverse plane and the vertical axis. Okay, now we can jump over to tensegrity. So tensegrity is the relationship between fascia, muscle, and bones within the body. The three components work together in a battle of pushing and pulling to create mobility, stability, and alignment of the skeleton. Alignment of the skeleton. These relationships work together to move a body part or hold a body part in place and affect posture. The pushing and pulling forces are affected by external and internal forces. The external forces include gravity, load, opposition, weather conditions, and external forces. The internal forces include bone abnormalities, injuries, and the general health of the body. The synergy of all three of these components, fascia, muscle, and bones, is tensegrity.